Imagine your worst nightmare happens, and then it happens again, and again, and again. It haunts you day in and day out, and there's not any way of stopping it. This is what it's like with PTSD. PTSD, also known as post-traumatic stress disorder, affects hundreds, and someone who it affects might be even right next to you. There are many people who are misinformed, and I was as well, before one of my close friends actually was diagnosed with it, and I did my research. There are many variations of symptoms and treatments for PTSD, but there's also a really strong stigma surrounding the illness. The signs of PTSD are often hidden, and according to the National Institute of Mental Health, all of the symptoms can be divided into 4 different categories, which are re-experiencing, avoidance, arousal and reacting, and cognition and mood symptoms. These are all caused by traumatic events such as war, battles, as well as childhood trauma, sexual trauma, and even just witnessing someone die. These symptoms that come along with this trauma can often be hidden, such as having trouble with memory, or nightmares, or even the avoidance of certain places because of this trauma. Since it's hidden, it can also often be difficult to deal with, and the disease is not a static one. Signs and symptoms are fluid, and some things can make the symptoms worse, and some things can make them better. There's no cure or off switch for PTSD, sadly. It's something that's stuck with the person forever, but there is treatment that can help the person cope and live their daily lives. According to the American Psychological Association, there are 2 highly recommended treatments, but there's also multiple conditionally recommended treatments. The highly recommended treatments are the cognitive and prolonged exposure therapy, which is undergone through a therapist's recommendation. There's also conditionally recommended treatments such as medication, EMDR, or NET, which all have shown some success. PTSD is different for everyone, and it's a balancing game with treatment. For example, the person I know undergoes cognitive therapy, but treatments are still being researched, and depending on the type and amount of trauma a person has gone through, depends on their treatment. But when thinking of PTSD, most people think of the stereotype, the military personnel who reacts at the drop of a pin, someone who is violent and dangerous. But the stereotype creates a skewed perspective of the diagnosis. Mayo Clinic lists multiple types of traumas, such as combat, abuse, assault, natural disasters, and even accidents. In a medically reviewed article from Everyday Health, it states stereotypes and stigma around PTSD is particularly strong. The stigma has caused more harm than good. And the public stigma is due to the ignorance of not knowing about the disorder and how it can be treated and managed. These stigmas and things can cause people to avoid getting treatment and even avoid getting a diagnosis. And without a diagnosis, it can cause even more issues, and for the person to keep reliving everything that they've gone through without any relief. The person that I know who does have PTSD it had gotten so bad for her that she was not sleeping, she wasn't eating, she wasn't doing well in class, and it was even affecting her mood with her friends. And she finally decided to go get treatment for it, and she's seen a dramatic increase in her mood, in her ability to sleep, and everything has just gotten a lot better for her. Now, that doesn't mean that she doesn't have bad days, but it has gotten quite a bit better. But with that stigma, it's caused people to avoid getting that diagnosis and that treatment that can help them live a better life. PTSD is a traumatic and lifelong illness. It presents in many ways and is treated in many ways. But the stigma can make it hard for those who have it to get help. There are many different treatments for the symptoms of PTSD, but like I said, the stigma is very, very challenging to get through, and so a lot of times those people who have it don't get that treatment. PTSD is a hidden illness, and it might even affect someone you know. As someone who's watched a person struggle with PTSD, I just want to say that it doesn't have to be a death sentence, and it doesn't have to be shameful. And there are resources that can help. Thank you.